Everyone, it's Lori Langford and welcome to the channel. Today's episode is all about how to capture in the beautiful, magical morning light. This video is two parts. I'm going to give you some shooting tips and techniques when you're outside in the early morning, some really good reasons why to get up early, and we'll start with those first and then we'll jump into Lightroom and do some editing. So the magic of morning light, these are 4 reasons that I get up early. First, it eliminates almost all shadows. The sun is lower in the sky, and so when you're shooting in a natural setting, whether you're shooting a landscape scene, people, or flowers, it's going to help eliminate almost all shadows. That means you need less gear. You don't have to drag out your large diffuser or other tools to work with the light. You also don't need as many filters and all of that type of gear. You also are able to get really true colors in camera. So this image on the right is straight out of camera, and you can just see the beautiful color, which is almost identical to the flower. You also are able to get a very soft, dreamy, really what I call yummy background. And I'm going to give you my tips in just a minute on how to achieve that soft background straight in camera. So these are some images from a recent photo shoot. These are all straight out of camera just to show you that there are no harsh shadows or reflections and very true colors, which is great. This magenta, I did not have to edit the colors. Straight out of camera, very soft. So next, let's jump into an actual outside photo shoot so I can give you some of my tips when I was out shooting in the natural light. So when you go out to shoot in the early morning, first tip is to look for the sun's direction. You want the sun to be behind your subject. And in the early morning hours, the sun is still low to the earth. It's not all the way up high. If you can find somewhere where the sun is being filtered through trees, you're going to get gorgeous bokeh. Now, the second tip is to use a long lens if you have one. This works great in almost all situations because it will compress all that soft, gorgeous light that you have, and it really makes for some beautiful backgrounds. Next is manage your aperture setting. So I love to shoot wide open at 2.8, but often with this gorgeous light and capturing more details, using a longer lens, I can shoot maybe even at f8 to get a larger depth of field, get more details in my subject. Now you'll notice through this video, you're going to see all that what I call yummy light, which is behind these roses. And when we go back to the images again, you're going to see how I was able to shoot the subject, the roses, and I have all that gorgeous yellow bokeh that you can see right there and light coming through. Now I shot with a 56 lens and I shot with a 70-300, and I was able to get a similar effect. Now, if you remember this image when we went through the images, look at the busy background. But shooting with that long lens, I was able to isolate my subject. Now, when you shoot in the early morning, you're going to avoid harsh shadows. The sun is not high enough to be causing harsh shadows on our subject. That means you're going to get gorgeous color and you're not going to have to do a lot of cloning or editing. Again, this image is another example of a very busy background, but using that longer lens helped me achieve the look. Hey, so now I'm back in Lightroom and I wanted to show you a couple of these images again. This was the image of that snapdragon, again with that busy background, but shooting in the morning light. I didn't have any harsh shadows. I was able to use that long lens to really compress the background. Now, if I went out in midday to shoot this, it would be so harsh. My colors wouldn't look realistic and it just wouldn't have the same effect. Same thing with these red poppies. Shooting something red or magenta, you really need to go out in early morning or late evening. Now, you may wonder, why do I recommend the magic of morning light versus the early evening? Now, I do go out and shoot in the evening, but I will tell you the light is going to have 2 different casts to it. It's either going to have a very warm cast, which you can see a little bit of that coming through here, or it will have a little bit of a blue cast. So if you shoot in the late evening, early evening, you'll have to make sure that you manage your white balance. Now for these image, I did have my white balance set to the sunny sunshine mode. So I was shooting in daylight mode, and that's important to note. Now, if you remember from the video, this image back behind is my neighbor's yard. There's cars, there's all kinds of things. But again, shooting with that long lens and just shooting directly into that sunlight. Now, I have shot this flower in early evening, and it does look very different than it does now. So just a couple tips as you think about and wonder if you should get up early to get out to a place to shoot. Now, this light example is the same if you're shooting landscape. So that's why a lot of landscape photographers, of course, get up for sunrise, but they also get up often to shoot before sunrise and after, because the light is just so unique and beautiful. So I hope you will get out this summer a little bit early and capture something beautiful that's around you. So again, all of these images were straight out of camera. So for today, I'd love to do some editing with you. And this was the image that's in my thumbnail for this video. So let's just edit this one together. And I'm just going to do a little bit to this image, not much at all. I think I will just bring the highlights down a little bit. I did open up the whites just to brighten it because it's such a happy little image. These poppies are just stunning. So I really enjoy them out in my garden. The next thing I want to do is I want to clean this up. So let's go up here to the remove tool. I just don't want anything distracting in my images. So I'm just going to clean this little tip up. We don't need it. It's not important to the story. So I'm just going to take that one off. And this little blob of white, I think what I'll do is I'm going to apply a mask. Let's grab the brush, make that brush a little bit smaller, bring that down. And what I want to do today is I'm just going to brush over this area and maybe this area over here. There we go. I'm going to turn off my overlay. And what I want to see is what happens when I change the temperature. So I just want to add some of that warmness because we know the light was warm. I want to reduce the whites a little bit because I just don't need that brightness, and I'm going to reduce the highlights. So now if we look at before and after, I really like the little bit of glow and that detail. Now, if you wanted, you could take this image into Photoshop and we could clone this white part out if you felt it was distracting with a little bit of the green. It's really up to you. It doesn't bother me, but I do like the difference it made to warm it up. And I think the only last thing I would do to this image is maybe go down. Let's go back to our basic panel. I'm going to go down to the vignette and let's see what happens if we just add, a little bit of a warm vignette, which really brings our eye in to our subject. And sometimes I add a little brush to my subject flower. So let's grab the brush tool. I'm going to come into this bottom area, maybe just a little bit right there. And let's see what it does to open up the exposure. Just ever so slightly, just a tiny bit right there. Just kind of pop that in. Maybe pop a little bit around. And that's before. And that's after. So I wanted to brighten the overall image. I think I will bring the exposure back just a little bit. That was before and after. So very, very simple edits. That is truly the reason that I like to get up early and get out shooting, because I just don't have I don't have to spend a lot of time on these images. This image is going to need very little editing versus if I went out in the middle of the day to shoot. So I hope you enjoyed this little video about the magic of morning light, and that you see how great it is to get out and capture and get these consistent, beautiful colors. So if you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, leave me some comments, and I will see you in the next video.